Hello, I'm Tom Hopkins. I'm an assistant professor at Bossier Parish Community College, and I teach programming, and today we're going to talk about repetition structures in the language of Python. Now, we also call these looping methods, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at introduction to these repetition structures, and we're going to use two keywords to do this with. One is a while loop, and the other one is a for loop. Now, the while loop we'll talk about being condition controlled, where the for loop is account controlled. We're also going to talk about input validation loops as well, which we use the while loop for. Okay, often when you write programs, you want to write a certain set of lines to be done or duplicated over and over again. Well, back when I first started, what you'd have to do is you just have to write those lines over and over again. The disadvantage, of course, is you're duplicating it. You have a good possibility of mistyping it. And, of course, you also have the time consumption, which is more important to us as the programming gets more complicated. So we'll take a look at repetition structure that makes it repeat, and we'll talk about how these are done and how it's also stopped, which is probably as more important than anything else. Otherwise, you can actually have your computer fail on you. We'll talk about that. The while loop, a condition-controlled loop. This particular keyword will take some statement to go with it, and while that condition is true, we want you to run these particular lines, talking to the computer. There are two parts. The condition that's tested, and it's going to be either true or false. It's like the if-else, one or the other. If it's true, the statements will be repeated. Then it will come back, test the condition again, and check it again. The general format looks like this, which often doesn't tell me a whole lot, except that the keyword while, and there should be some statement here. Let's take a look at it from this particular method. Taking a look at it from a flowchart aspect, we have this condition right here, which is going to be, okay, is it cold outside? If that's true, put on a coat. Check it again. Is it cold outside? True, put on a coat. And it will continue this loop until such time that this condition is no longer true, it's now false, then we will continue with the regular programming. In order for the loop to stop executing, something has to happen inside the loop to make the condition false. Each one of these loops we're going to call an iteration. The while loop is known as a pretest loop. Now, the pretest loop is just that. It tests the condition to see if it's true before any of the statements run. If it's not true to begin with, the while statements will never run, period. That's not always the case in all languages, but it is the case in Python. Okay, let's take a look at a while statement. That thermostat you may have played with in a previous segment, let's take a look at making it a while statement. So we've got the set temperature, float. Now I want this to be the capability of having a decimal, like 72.5. Notice the way it's written, we've got parentheses, and then I've got an input for the user, input, in quotes, what temperature do you want to start? Do you want? Notice the space at the end, and I put the quote so that way there'll be a space on their answer, and remember to close both sets of parentheses. And then I've got a variable, again. Now this is going to cause a repetition. So I'm going to say again is equal to a capital Y. It's in quotes because it's text. And it also validates the user input. So while, again, is equal to y, now here you notice that what I'm saying is that 2 equals size because we're comparing again to y. If the user has typed capital Y, then again is equal to capital Y. It is true, so this is all going to run. And so it's going to ask for an input for the float. Excuse me. It's going to ask for the input to the float. And it's going to ask, okay, what is the temperature now? If the temperature is the set temperature, turn the air conditioner on. If the temperature is less than the temp, turn the heater on. And of course, else, turn the system off. Let's take a look at this in Python itself. Okay, here's the Python code as it's written in the Python IDE. And you'll see it's the same thing. Notice this, the while is the keyword. The condition is, again, is equal to y. The variable up here sets up that condition to begin with. And then we have our statements. And then down here is the control. We're going to ask for an input from the user if they want to check the temperature again. If they do, then this while statement then will run again. And it looks like this. What temperature do you want? I want 72 degrees. What's temperature now? Notice that the first statement is way up here. It's just a variable to set the temperature. Over here on the left side, on the right side, you're right. And that's not part of the while statement. But what is the temperature now is. So temperature is 74 degrees. The air conditioner is on. Now, look at here, at the very last line. Now we're going to control it using this input from the user. Do you want to do it again? And I'm going to type capital Y, and it asks me again. And now it's 71 degrees. And now we've turned on the heater. Check the temperature again, and I'm just going to print anything, H. And you'll notice that the loop stops. Okay. Now, one of the problems with this particular one, let's take a look at this example here. It's a very simple example, and I'll go ahead and run it. But what I'm going to do before I do that is keep going is equal to input, and I'm just going to type again, space, to ask the user to tell me to do it again. And we're going to assume that they know, yeah, no, I won't. We'll do it like that. That tells the user. Now that's the control, correct? So now if we run this, it should run this is an infinite loop. X plus 1 is equal to 2, and do it again. And so I'm going to say yes, lowercase, and it says this is an infinite loop. 1 plus 1, x plus 1 is equal to 3. Do it again, yes. And it will continue doing this. Now the control is if I say anything other than lowercase y. So we'll just say F, and it stops. Now look what happens if this statement over here is not there. Let's take that out by just commenting it out. Now look what happens when I run. It will go through the while statement, keep going equals y. It will add this statement together, x is equal to x plus y, x plus 1, and it will print this is an infinite loop, and it will print x plus 1 equals x. I save it, and I have to stop it. It doesn't show up on the video very well, but what's happened is this has gone through 241 iterations until I did Control-C to stop the program. Okay, so it gives you an idea what happens with an infinite loop. Some of the older computers, if you let it go that long, it would actually eat up so much of the random access memory that it would actually fail the computer. Okay, let's talk about infinite loop. Well, we've talked about infinite loops. Let's go on down to a for loop. A for loop is a count-controlled loop. Now, the key word is for, and it will have some statement just like the while loop. The only difference here is the statement is going to control the loop actually through a set of designated values. Okay, let's take a look at what we mean by this. Let's take a case where we would like the computer to print winking, blinking, and nod, one on each line. So I'm going to make a for loop. Name is a variable. In winking, blinking, and nod. Notice the square brackets, not the parentheses. And it's going to print name. So every time it goes through, the first time it's going to go through, it's going to print name, and it's going to use the first item of the list, winking. And then it's going to loop down again, print name, and name is going to be equal to blinking. And then again, nod. You'll notice the loop is controlled by these set of numbers. It's going to do 3 loops, and that's it. We don't have to put a control on it because the control is part of the for loop. Let's take a look at this one, which just loops a simple set of numbers. And we'll take a look at this. Simple thing, these prints up here are just to give it some type of statement of what we're doing. Notice I can also make a blank line by just strictly doing a print statement with an empty parentheses. Now here's the for. For number in this list. It's in square brackets, and I'm going to print num. And don't worry about this last one. I'll show you something in a minute. But here, we run the statement, and what happens is it prints 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Now, number, we've created a variable inside the for statement right here. So therefore, the last iteration, num, is going to be equal to 10. And we can come outside of the for statement. The for statement is finished. Now we're going to print num, because remember, it's a variable, it's a container that's in memory, it's still in memory. So now if I print num times num, I should get 10 times 10, which is equal to 100. And I do. Okay, let's take a look at another version of this. How about if we, instead of using straightforward numbers like this, why don't we take a look at this version? Now this particular version is a little different because here we're going to count by 2's, which we did before, but we had to list all the numbers. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a range. And that range then is going to start with this. We're going to do a range of the first number to the last number, and the third part of this, separated by commas, is going to be the interval that we're going to use. And we're going to print number. Now, what you're going to notice is I've put 11, but what I get, the last number is 10. This uses basically an array. So this is the last number, and when it hits print, it comes back to check for 11, but that's the last number. That stops the for statement. So if you want to use 10, then you have to put the 10 plus 1 in there. Even if I use 12, I would still get the same result. It would only use 10. I would have to go 13 to get the 12th number. Okay? All right. What have we gotten from this? We've got the range, and you can see how this is put together. Start number, comma, end number, comma, interval, and print the number. So we've covered loops, repetition structures. We've covered while statements. We've covered the while also validating the user input, because if the user input is not true, then it will quit. And we've also covered 3 different ways of using count-controlled for statements. For statement, the for loop is a post-test. It always tests after it's run one time. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next segment.